Welcome to CryptoTalk Radio, the podcast for everyday investors like you. Visit us on the web at CryptoTalkRadio.net. And now, here's your host, Leister.
Thank you for that, Bailey, and welcome everybody out there in Crypto Talk Radio, found at CryptoTalkRadio.net. Allergies are kicking my tail, folks, so today's episode is not going to be long, and I apologize if it's hard to hear or understand me, but allergies are kicking my tail. Today's episode will be short because it's boring. I have a couple of observations or statements I'll make about the Clarity Act, a couple of points I'll make about security, and then I will do an outreach. Something I had an idea about. I figured I would extend it to CryptoTalk.fm. This is something that happens on the sister show. Seems to be rather popular. Now, if I do it on CryptoTalk.fm, I'll have to be a little bit creative about it because I need to make sure that it's worth doing. So I'll talk about that at the tail end of the episode. So you want to listen all the way to the end. Today's episode won't be long. You want to listen all the way to the end to my proposal. Then what I'd ask is your thoughts. If you think it's a good idea, I'll provide a way for you to share that feedback. The feedback is critical. If I don't get feedback from people, it ain't going to happen. So it's important that I get feedback if it's something that you're interested in. For now, let's talk about the dull din, look it up, that is cryptocurrency. Coindesk.com, we will zoom out to the month chart, starting with Bitcoin, where you will see what appears to be an upward trend. However, things are not necessarily what they seem, because although the trend is slightly upward, I would not consider it a strong upward trend. In fact, it does appear that it's going back down. Now, I don't know that 100%. I'm saying it does appear that it's going back down. Currently hovering just shy of the $81,000 mark as I record this, but I had thrown a number about 66,000 some time ago. What I'm seeing is roughly about that number. I see that down to the 60s still is in the pocket. Whether I get it right or not, I don't know, but that's what I see on the charts right now. The other thing I notice when looking at Ethereum, which is currently hovering just shy of the $2,300 mark as I record it, Ethereum has the same type of trend, but it's even weaker than Bitcoin. Ethereum is more middling. It's not trending upward. It doesn't look like it's getting close to going upward. It's middling. Middling usually indicates down at some point, who knows when. You might be wondering what could be causing the lack of momentum, given another article about Michael Saylor buying Bitcoin. My theory, and that's all it is a theory, is that people are waiting for Clarity Act clarity. People are waiting to see what's going to happen with that law. The White House sent out a message saying that the banks don't want to come to the table, and they're ignoring the message because they don't want to debate about the stablecoins. They don't want to talk about it. They want to make sure that you cannot get passives off your stables. The compromise was if there's activity, then they could issue rewards. The banks don't want that either. They don't want you to have any sort of payment coming from the cryptocurrency whatsoever. They want to keep it for themselves. Now, I've said before, there is at least one senator who listens to the show at CryptoTalk.fm. And if that senator happens to be listening to the show right now, here's what I would suggest. And I think this is easier than it seems, but here's what I would suggest. One compromise that I think makes sense, if the banks really don't like what's happening and they want to try to keep the guardrails, how about this? How about there's a minimum possible rate that they must pay for deposits? I'm not talking CDs. I'm talking savings accounts. I'm talking checking accounts. They have to pay a minimum percentage. Let's say that minimum percentage is 5%. They're going to think we're crazy. No, that's the compromise. Either you have a minimum threshold, for your deposits. So we make it worth the while. Then we'll drop the stablecoin side. Or stablecoin can do what they're going to do, and you got to compete with them in whatever they're doing. I guarantee you, the banks, given that ultimatum, I'm not talking a choice, I'm talking ultimatum, are going to lean towards, okay, fine, we'll compete, and our CEO can't make $5 billion. They can only make $3 billion, and we'll deal with it. That's what's going to happen. Or we'll go back to the world before Washington Mutual screwed the pooch, where you're charged for checking accounts. I actually think that's fine because they already have done that. They have the simple checking, and they charge you for that. Or you have the higher end checking, and you might get charged, but only based on the deposit amount. They're doing everything they can to make sure you get money in there. They charge you. Like, it's different than what it used to be. Used to be they would reward you for having your money. Now they charge you unless you give them more money. They don't want to lose that. I get it. So give them the ultimatum. Make it simple. Just my pulse on it. I don't know. So I think the Clarity Act, lack of clarity, is causing a lot of the sideways motion that I see. I believe that people are kind of holding to see what's going to happen. If I'm right, and I can't say I am, but if I'm right, it means we're going to be waiting for a long time. It means you're not going to see upward passion from the crypto community for a very long time, regardless of how many Bitcoin Michael Saylor buys. It doesn't seem like it matters. A quick public service announcement. This is really for security reasons, and although I think it's common sense, I feel it's my moral and ethical duty to use my platform at CryptoTalk.fm to spread the message. Apparently, there are people out there who are braggadocious about how much crypto they've got, and people who are bragging about how much money they made in their crypto and their wallets. And apparently, there are so-called wrench attacks, as in physical assaults, where they're coming up and they're beating the snot out of these people, forcing them to transfer the crypto out. The only way somebody would know that you had a windfall in your crypto, that rhymes, is you blabbed about it. You opened your big ass mouth and talked about it. Why are you doing that? Because some of you don't know what you're doing. And I'm hitting you with hard facts here because I care. Stop bragging. Why is it anybody's business that you're rich? Why is it anybody's business that you made a windfall? Why is it anybody's business that you gambled and rolled the dice and struck it? Why is it anybody's fucking... And when I say anybody, and I know how to sound and I don't care, even your spouse, why are you doing that? Why? Because you feel like you have to be honest. Fine. Then don't whine and complain when somebody beats the snot out of you with a wrench or some other blunt force object because you asked for it. Stop doing that, okay? If your spouse is curious, where'd you get the money for this new water heater? Where'd you get the money for this? Where'd you get the money for that? Let your spouse know. Here's my advice. Let your spouse know I borrowed the money. Because think about it. You're not really lying. Technically, you are borrowing it because it could crap. It could crash, right? So let's say you got a windfall. You got $500,000. You spend a couple $1,000s on a new stove or something. Then it craps and now you're down to $10 and now the bills are due and you lose your job. Well, guess what? You're probably going to need to sell that stove. You're essentially borrowing the money, right? Just that the loan term's a little bit longer. So spin it. I'm saying, in my opinion, I think it behooves you not to fully divulge that you made a windfall. Or before you tell people, spread it around to multiple wallets so it's difficult to find out what's going on. Use the wallet, the separate wallet for the spend. Let's say you go from a central exchange. It's hard to trace from the central exchange. So distribute from the central exchange to separate wallets as you need to. I'm not advocating leaving your windfall in the exchange. That's a stupid idea. I'm saying nobody should be able to track that you have crap tons of money. So stop doing it. Just please stop doing that. Because I don't like to see people getting their, what's the kids say? Their shit pushed in. I don't want to see that of you or anybody else. But it's simple. Keep your mouth shut, man. If you do win, keep your mouth shut. Nobody needs to know, right? I make a lot of money at my job, but nobody's going to be able to take it from me. That rhymes. They can't. You couldn't if you wanted to. You don't know where it is, right? You don't know where the money goes. If you tried to take physical assets, you'd have a hard time getting past the door. And if you did get past the door, you wouldn't like what's on the other side. See, I've already, in my mind, presented these things. Now, I've talked to my friends already that haven't seen me in a couple of years. If they came and saw how I was living, they would be shocked. This you? I know 3 of them would say that. This you? Yes. This is my house. I'm still working on it, but just right now, it looks amazing in what it's doing. But it's the nicest house in the area, but it's not like a McMansion or anything. But it's the nicest house in the area. And I'm not done with the improvements. By the time I'm done, I'll be able to sell the damn thing for twice what it's worth. If I chose to. Right now, I'm just biding time. I got the tax man coming down my throat. But the point is, it's not braggadocious. I don't brag. You know, it's still middle class in the neighborhood. They don't need to know how much money I make. Why would I want to live with the rich people? I'm just setting myself as a target. So my impassioned plea to you, don't brag about your wallet crypto windfall. Keep it on the low. That rhymes. So my last part for the episode, told you to be short. An idea occurred to me, and I'm going to present it to you. I need feedback. If I don't get feedback, it ain't going to happen. CryptoTalk.fm, hit the contact form if this is of interest to you. On the sister podcast that we have, every now and then I'll do a giveaway. Why? Because I feel like it. It's that simple. And I think it's fun. It identified to me, one of the things I was concerned about, the sister podcast is actually the main podcast. CryptoTalk Radio is not the main. CryptoTalk Radio it has more listeners, but it's not the main podcast. The other one it's worldwide, across the globe. I've had people from Indonesia. I've had people from Ukraine. I've had people from, like, you count, it's crazy. I didn't realize the reach of the other one. CryptoTalk Radio, it kind of ebbs and flows. And what I've learned is that the vast majority of listeners are listening for one specific topic, not for the diversity of topic. Well, I'm doing it for the diversity of topic. So in other words, I'm not going to just keep talking about one project that you care about, that you're worried about, that you got $100 in there and you wonder what's going on, because that's a waste of my time. It's a waste of everybody else's time. I'm diverse. I'm okay. I might have heard these 7 other influencers talk about Bitcoin's going to go up to the moon, and now I'm going to listen to Leister tell me, and I don't see that, hold me accountable and see who's right or wrong. And then you see that Leister's telling the truth, and then you come back to me and you tell your friends and you tell them, stop listening to those jokers. They don't know what they're talking about. This guy Leister's been spot on every time. That's my hope. But in order for that to work, I have to assume that you like the diversity of coverage. Sometimes I have more to speak about than other times, but the diversity of coverage is kind of my goal. And I work to refine the time, how long it takes to cover in a given upload, because I don't want to waste your time. I decided to offer, and again, I need feedback. I decided to offer to Crypto Talk Radio listeners, if you want, on the other show, I do giveaways of Steam games. So these are Steam keys. You get the full game. You add it to your account. It's yours to keep. I do trivia. Sometimes the trivia is about the topic. Sometimes it's random trivia. And we've been having fun with that on the other show. That's why I'm offering it here. What I'm going to tell you, this is the test of whether you're listening. CryptoTalk.fm, hit the contact form and let us know, is this something you'd be interested in? Giveaways, trivia giveaways. You don't have to pay for the question. However, here's the catch. If I do this, right, if I decide to do this, I need to make sure it's worth your while, meaning you should have an advantage. Meaning, I want to increase your odds to win. Increasing your odds to win means there has to be less participants. Less participants means I have to have a dedicated way for you to get information about the trivia. Now, there's a number of ways I can do that. I could do Discord. I could do the site. I could do a dedicated podcast feed. I have a number of different options at my disposal. I think what I want to do, is I might want to create my own channel, use my Convivo brand and spin it back up again. Create my own channel where I will publish the question in that form. I think that's what I want to do. Then all you have to do is listen to the podcast, but you'd have to have a key to get into this question. And then the question, all you have to do is answer it and be the first to answer it correctly, and you win a Steam key. That's the mechanism. I got to figure out the logistics because, again, I want to make sure it's in your favor, not a ripoff like some other casino projects I can think of. I want to make sure it's in your favor. So your next task is clear. If anything I just said about the potential to win free Steam video games appeals to you or to your kids, CryptoTalk.fm, hit the contact form and let us know that this is of interest to you. If I don't get significant interest, I won't do it because I don't want to waste your time. But if I get enough interest, I'll work on it. That's my commitment to you because it gives us something to do that rhymes. I want to have something that I can give back while we wait for cryptocurrency to figure itself out. Isn't that fair? And I challenge you to identify any other podcaster, YouTuber, or otherwise influencer who's doing what I just described in confidence and knows exactly what's going on and what to do. I challenge you to identify any of them that's doing something for their listeners in that regard like that, and you won't find it. They'll gladly talk about airdrops of garbage tokens that don't do shit. None of them are talking about, simple trivia and we can win just like the old days of radio, right? Because it's radio. It's what we do. We should be doing. Let's throw it back. Let's go back to a simpler time. CryptoTalk.fm. Hit the contact form if that's of interest. If I don't get enough interest, I won't do it. I think that's simple and fair, simple and plain, simple and clean, all on the table. You have the power to control what happens next. I don't have the authority. You have the authority. It's the difference between me and them. The listener's guide. As long as you give me that feedback, I will follow. There is a catch in what I just described. The giveaway, a lot of what we learned on the other show, I'd say 9 out of 10 of respondents are outside the United States. That's fine. There are keys available for different countries, but Steam is essentially a scam in the way they do this. And some of it's not their fault. Some of it's the developers, and they're scammers. So what they do is they have this chaos of region locking, which is a blatant scam, but the way it works is what they call a, quote, global key is not global. There is a United States key, which is usually US and UK. There's a, quote, global key, which is a bunch of countries, but not this slim set of countries. Then there's what's called an ROW key, which is a rest of world key, which is a different kind of global key, which is usually more expensive than the main global key. And the ROW key is what I almost always have had to deploy in order to work with these countries. So the catch in what I'm describing to you, every time I do these trivias, I have to ask your location. I have to ask what country you're in when I really don't want to, but I have no choice because of the scam that these developers are putting on with the region locking BS. If you're in the US, it's simple. If you're in a mainstream country, it's simple. If you're in this ROW set of countries, it's not that simple. And I won't know. I'm going in, I won't know that it's doing that. It's only when I go to try to find the key, all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. So the caveat is I got to ask your country. I ask your first name and the country you're in. And that's because I have to understand how to purchase the key for you and what to call you because I give you a shout out. Now, I don't have social media on CryptoTalk Radio. So there wouldn't be a place for me to give a shout out except for the following episode. Your name would be communicated, say this was the winner, so that it's always clear somebody was winning the prizes. CryptoTalk.fm. Hit the contact form and let us know if any of these is of interest to you. If it's something that's of interest, let us know. The level of interest guides whether I do it or not. If I get no interest, I will not do it.